Celebrating 100 episodes. JSB Talks Digital.
Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital, the podcast for marketers, digital transformation champions, and those of you bringing your skills into the digital age. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke and this podcast is brought to you by Digital Training Institute. In this episode number 100, a major milestone for me, I bring you behind the scenes of Ireland's first public sector digital marketing summit and why I'm stepping up to elevate digital communications in government agencies. Coming up in today's show, in social media news, Facebook takes action against Instagram pod groups. Facebook has finally decided to let users see who's viewed their profile, and one of the top 10 most popular royal wedding tweets was fake. Gary McMahon, Communications Officer with Galway City Council, joins me in studio for Interview of the Week. In shoutouts, 3 reasons to attend the Public Sector Digital Marketing Summit, Ask JSB, in JSB's column, why I'm stepping up to support public sector marketing professionals who are changing the world one digital message at a time, and find out what social media tool saved my working week.
Social media news.
So in social media news this week, Facebook is dominating, and some might argue that in fact Facebook dominates probably every week on this show. So first up, Instagram pods are being crushed by Facebook in a move to kill off hacks to beat the Instagram algorithm. An Instagram pod is whereby users join groups which artificially inflate post popularity in order to increase reach. Not sure if any of you guys actually use pods, but I'm not a fan. Because vanity metrics are not the only measure of success. And I think individuals or organisations that do think that are missing the whole point of social media. So, pods work by all the members of the group being informed of a new post, so they all go and like and comment on it. This early activity tells Instagram's algorithm that this is a popular post, which then sees it gain more reach in follower feeds and in Explore, boosting exposure. But hey, what's the point in random people or organisations liking your posts? It's never going to convert into sales or into your end conversion. According to BuzzFeed today, Facebook has this week suspended several large groups for helping hundreds of thousands of people trick Instagram's algorithm into showing their posts to more people. And staying with Facebook, Facebook has finally allowed users to see who's viewed our profile. Oh dear, I'm not sure that we actually like this because this is one of the non-features that we really liked about Facebook. And as you know, LinkedIn has had this feature for some time. Obviously, if you're a freemium member, you only get to see a small number of people who see your profile on LinkedIn. But if you're a premium member like me, I get to see everybody who is looking at my profile. So that's always very interesting. So after the recent scandals surrounding Facebook, it seems that they've had a change of mind. You can now see who has viewed your Facebook profile, and it allows you to see who's viewed it in the last 30 days. And I've got a screenshot of where to find that in the blog post associated with this podcast over at digitaltraining.ie. Well, I couldn't not mention the royal wedding, which will be trending all weekend, with Harry and Meghan's nuptials happening tomorrow in London. So Twitter did a roundup of the most viral tweets about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding happening tomorrow. However, one of the most popular tweets in the top 10 was actually fake. Other trending tweets were Meghan Markle suits co-star Patrick Adams' reaction to the engagement, or that joke about the engagement being a way for Brits to get America back. There are 8 others, so perhaps have a look at the podcast, and that's your social media news for this week.
Interview.
So, Always when I'm hosting a live show, I invite a guest into the studio, and I'm absolutely delighted to have Gary McMahon, who is Communications Officer and also Acting Director of Community Enterprise and Culture at Galway City Council, join me this morning. Gary, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much for having me.
Well, you know, we are seasoned communications professionals, if you will allow me to describe you like that and include me in that statement. And also, you've got a radio background, so I'm delighted that you're joining me because, hey, you'll be comfortable in the studio.
Well, it's better than being at work.
Well, you are at work, okay? This is PR for the City Council. Trust me. So, you've been in communications a long time, 18 years with Galway City Council, and then you've also worked in PR and marketing for Macnas. How has communications changed in the last 10 years if we consider that the smartphone is just 10 years old? Like, what do we do without them?
I'm not 100% sure how we actually managed to do things. We used to type press releases and post them to people using a stamp. Or walk around to particularly in local media, you'd walk around to the newspaper offices in Galway here. You'd walk into the Tribune office on Market Street and then around the corner to the Advertiser office when it was in the lane there beside St. Nicholas's Church. And the Galway Observer, as was running at the time, was down in the Old Malt Arcade. And you would actually physically go around with press releases.
Imagine.
And it seems really odd. Now you bang out a press release every 10 minutes. And send it to several hundred people on your media list, and your different media list for different topics, whatever it might be. That's when I worked in specifically directly in the arts and culture in terms of doing that. I've been, as you said, I am among the jobs I have at the moment, but I have been communications officer for City Council for what year are we? About 8 years now at this stage, actually, and. It's been a significant change, and it's not just about responding anymore to media queries that would come in, either from local or national media. It is still part of it. Before I came here about 10 minutes ago, I was dealing with a query from the Irish Independent with a deadline they have a deadline of 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have an answer for them. I'll have an answer. I don't know if I have the full answer that they need. So you're still dealing with that, but then there's a much more direct engagement, which you can do now, which we all can do through our own media, because we have our own media, whether it's our reasonably static websites and the social media. Now, Galway City Council, we haven't expanded a huge amount. We have a Twitter presence and we have a Facebook presence. The Twitter presence is probably more significant. We have 12,500 or thereabouts followers on that. A lot of but we depend the fact that we're directly connected to 12,500 people there, but a significant number of those are people are the media, and who will pick up on what we're saying. A lot of what we're doing is direct, straight communication in terms of getting messages out about particular things, and it's something that has developed in the last number of years. The local authority, each of the local authorities has someone who is designated for communications. Depending on the size of the local authority, the scale of that operation, it varies widely and wildly. So somewhere, kind of the bigger urban local authorities like Dublin City Council, Cork City Council, Fingal would have Limerick City and County Councils have an entire communications department with someone at the head of that and staff who are working on a variety of different things under kind of bespoke communication strategies. We're a bit more lower key, put it that way. There aren't a whole lot of people working on the communication side of things, and some of it is shared out among people in terms of even just getting things out on Twitter and Facebook when there are events. But what actually, through the network of communications officers, there's a fairly regular sharing of experience and how we're going to get messages out about various different things, which are sector-wide or particular to the particular local authority, or sometimes particular to the particular service, whether it's roads, environment issues, culture and arts, and in terms of doing that. So it has changed quite considerably in the last number of years. How we ended up in the social media sphere is entirely accidental, of course. We have had Galway City Council has had a website operated through our IT department, which is the case in most local authorities and probably most public sector, or previously would have been in most public sector organisations. The IT department, it's like the way RTE used to be run entirely almost by engineers, because they had the mass and they the broad. So it was about the technology of actually getting of communication rather than the message of communication. That's changed a good bit in the last number of years. But in June 2010, it's coming up on 8 years ago, we had a significant event happen early one Friday morning in Galway City Council. There was an explosion. It was a water heater that had exploded 6:30 in the morning, and basically the building was shut down, taken over by fire service and whatever, make the building safe, and the building couldn't be moved into for a week. We were out of the building for a week, and we had no access to anything, including IT, and including to our website, and all of that was constrained. So I, as the press officer, basically just went, and having had my own Facebook page and my own Twitter account, because I just was interested, I set up a Facebook and Twitter account for Galway City Council in order to be able to get message out, kind of that we're closed, that the building is closed, that the services had transferred to other services, that our phone services were still, and just using that. And it was just by necessity we needed to get some sort of online presence. And so basically taking the opportunity that was there to use Facebook and Twitter. And since then, so we just kind of sit on it. Now, lots and lots and lots of things have happened in the last 8 years in terms of media and communications and messaging and communications. We haven't expanded as much, partly because we haven't really the resources to apply to it. But we're hoping to advance it a bit more this year, with a couple more people coming to work on this side of things. So, kind of part of the thing is who you're talking to and what are you trying to say to them. And do we need to be kind of in the world of Instagram and Snapchat and all the other various, kind of newer social media? Our Facebook presence of about 1,500, but that's picked up, kind of, it's fairly significant. We're dealing with the city of Galway, which is a population of 85,000. To have 12,500 people following us on Twitter, not all in Galway, obviously, but if we need to get a message out that, for instance, the traffic lights at the Briar Hill junction on the east side of the city are out and are likely to be off the next 6 hours, avoid the area, well, it does work. The message does get out because it gets to individuals who pick it up on their phones now, and people have it on their phones, which they didn't necessarily have. It was all on their PCs or possibly their laptops. Now, in the last 3-4 years, particularly with smartphones, people are picking up on that. But also, as I said, media, national and local media are picking up on that, and kind of traffic reports. That's just one example of it.
Was it hard for the organisation to embrace social? I know that, digital transformation, now that people are doing a lot of it, and you've expressed, a willingness and a wish to do more this year. But in those early days, was it difficult to convince the powers that be that Galway City Council should have a face and a voice that's speaking directly to the public, and the public can speak directly back to you? Was there a nervousness?
There's deep unease locally and across the sector in relation to this. And there about a whole range of issues about kind of provenance and authorship and who's saying this and who's saying it and who and what tone are you taking. I think a lot of people for instance, a lot of, in taking Twitter as an example, a lot of people are in the public sector at management level are a bit kind of thrown when they see guarded traffic info, the tone that is in there. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
The humour.
It's humorous, but it's also informative. It is also but by being that, it's engaging, and it's about engagement. And that, how do you engage? It's not about there is a touch of finger wagging that goes on, but you take that kind of a tone without it being completely. It's not flippant. There is, but it's not sternly authoritative as well. And some of that, you pick your different media for different things. Our Facebook, our website, Galway City Council's website, for instance, is quite solid. You'd probably even say stolid. But it's kind of just the facts. And just the facts don't work on Twitter and Facebook. You need to engage with it. I would hope at times with a little bit of fun. We're not as funny as the guards. Who'd have thought you'd ever say something like that?
And it's interesting because I wrote a book on how police forces use social media, and chapter 8 is all about how Garda Síochána use social media. And their backstory is very similar to yours, because the reason they set up their Twitter account was just before the visit of the Queen of England to Ireland, that state visit. And they were wondering how they would communicate effectively and seamlessly to the masses about road closures. And then At Garda Traffic was born. And now that account has more Twitter followers and more engagement than their official At Garda Info account, because that was the first one. And they have admitted that they deliberately use humour because they realise that enlisting public support is very, very important in crime investigation, missing persons. And they say that when they reach out and they ask a serious question, because they've been engaging throughout, the people respond. So it is quite remarkable. And, you know, as a communications tool and having that direct contact with the public, if you can build up that trust and that engagement, they'll give you a dig out when you need it.
I'm trying to remember, and I can't. This is the power of lack of research. We probably had our most engaging Facebook post last week, and I'm trying to remember what it is, and I can't. I don't want to stop to just go through my phone to find out what it was. But we actually had 48,000, a reach of 48,000 on it. And I'm trying to remember.
Organically?
Completely, and it completely.
Everybody, go and look at Galway City Council's Facebook page and tell us what it is.
And from last week, I can't remember what it was. This is terrible.
You're on the spot. It's
but
absolutely
it completely,
fine.
and it may have had to do with. No, it wasn't Ed Sheeran, even though we had a lot of hits on the Ed Sheeran information, which was basically we were picking up on the Garda Traffic Management Plan and resending it through Twitter and Facebook, and we did a huge number of hits, and the people wanted to know, how do I get in and out of Galway for Ed Sheeran, the two concerts last weekend at Pearse Stadium.
And of course they want to hear it from you because, you know, you are the guardians of that message, because of the whole fake news and echo chamber issue that we have on social media. They really rely on public sector organisations and government agencies to give them the facts and the truth. So I'm not surprised that you're getting that level of engagement.
But it sometimes it happens almost by accident.
It does.
You'd like to say, "Oh well, I did all planned."
When you try to go viral,
my digital media strategy has really worked here, and it's kind of, "Oh my God, why are all these people looking at us?" And that does happen. Sorry, I'm now searching.
Go and search. I'll talk. You search. I'll search. So, on the topic of fake news and protecting the truth, have you ever been exposed to people sharing misinformation connected with maybe Galway City Council or jobs or initiatives that you're involved in? And do you correct the record if people have it wrong?
They haven't really. What we do tend to get is, because people have very strong opinions about the services and that Galway City Council produce, and we're not just a service organisation, we're also a political organisation headed up by elected members and a mayor and whatever. So people at times strongly disagree with decisions that have been made both at a political and at an executive level by Galway City Council. So there's an engagement there. And so you can have people kind of taking off on something, sharing something from our Facebook or Twitter accounts, and then extrapolating something which is not actually based in reality. Put it that way. I'm being kind. Remember, I don't know how I forgot this. We put up a notification for the supplement for the electoral register for the next week's referendum on the 8th. I put up a post on a Sunday night at 8:00 that the bank holiday weekend, that the closing time and day for the register to get on the register was 4:00 on the following Tuesday. This was organically, I've just looked at the figure, it was 54,000 people.
And that's probably the majority of the listenership of Galway Bay FM, right?
Yes, it would be.
You know,
it
maybe
was
80%
shared. It
or
was
whatever,
shared
but-
and shared and shared, but it was
Yeah.
all organically, and kind of. It was wonderful. Facebook were inviting me to boost it. I didn't have to. I didn't have to pay to boost this.
Facebook wants your money, Gary.
It is, but it also shows the interest, and also shows the interest of the. To go back to the thing of who you're talking to, and who's the message intended for, and as we saw with the queues that were going out the door on the Tuesday, it was largely a young demographic who were queuing to get in. So they are the social media users in the majority. And we had a huge number that sitting in NUIG. We had a huge number of NUIG and GMIT students who had been part of a voter registration campaign here in the university, and then they moved it down for the last day in a panic to get into City Hall before 4:00 to get their forms stamped and whatever. But this was phenomenal for us. Our usual hit is around 1,000. You know, the reach is around 1,000. This is 54,000 people.
Yeah. And so overall, do you think that social media is an aid as opposed to a hindrance to government agencies in terms of communications?
It's a bit like saying, do you think oxygen is an aid to living? It's there, you absolutely, you couldn't provide the service.
That's a nice way of
it.
saying, Joanne, that's a stupid question.
Couldn't possibly have even
That
thought
was a
that
really
thought.
good, that was a really polite way of saying it. So yes, the answer
Yes,
is yes.
the answer is yes.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a minute, but
Okay.
for now, Gary McMahon, thank you so much.
Shoutouts.
In this part of the show, I give shout outs to brands, organisations or individuals whose work online is remarkable and worth talking about. In this episode, my shout outs go to the Public Sector Digital Marketing Summit and 3 reasons you need to attend if you're working in communications within a government agency.
1.
Firstly, it's the only gig in town. This is the first time that a dedicated digital marketing summit has been arranged with public sector in mind. There are so many digital events in Ireland and right across Europe, but they are all aimed, I argue, at corporates and at the business community. When you're engaged in social media and digital communications for the public sector, you're not selling anything and your conversion is not sales. What you are selling is public interest messaging, and how you use social media and how you leverage digital communications is much, much different. So I argue it's the only gig in town for public sector professionals who are working in comms, so you need to be there.
2.
Secondly, you will begin to understand the role of digital transformation in the public sector. If you heard from Gary there when he talks about, well, it's been perhaps 8 years since they embraced social media, but there's a lot of work that they want to do. Transformation is, I argue, coming to a peak in government agencies. Why? Well, a couple of reasons in my own mind. The recession caused a major cap in recruitment, a cap on any sort of investment in CPD, within public sector, within technology. While those of us, me for example, constantly develop my skills, investing in technology, not a lot, but I can tell you my little setup here definitely goes a long way. So now is the time and for public sector organisations to embrace digital transformation fully, because they are ready and they are willing. And I promise you, if you were listening and you're in that sphere, you can actually leapfrog forward and you can avoid all the mistakes that those of us had made in digital transformation.
3.
And finally, you can come along to my VIP masterclass, which is happening on Friday, the 15th of June in Dublin. I will take you through the whole digital transformation process step by step. There are 8 steps. And so if you want to invest in a VIP ticket, you get to come to the conference on day 1 and also to my VIP masterclass on day 2. You got to find out more. We are selling 2 2 ticket savers at 33% off. So 2 people, €395. Go to publicsectormarketingpros.com/summit.
Ask JSB.
In this section of the show, I reach out to my community and I invite them to ask JSB because I love being asked tough digital questions. So in this week's show, my question comes from Siobhan, who's a member of my Facebook group, Public Sector Marketing Pros. And she wants to know, and I'll be interested in your opinion, Gary, on this one too. She says, whether a lack of commercial outlook in many public sector organisations affects their approach to digital marketing. Now, this is a question that I have never been asked directly by somebody working in the public sector. Obviously, I've thought about it myself. And what I would say is, I think there's more of an urgency and a demand on the corporate world to embrace the digital communications because they understand that it's going to impact the bottom line. And I think their motivation is greater. And it's completely different. I think from a public sector's perspective, they are, and rightly so, more conservative, more protecting of their information. And also because they're acting in the public interest, they have to be very, very careful about who they hand over those channels to and how they communicate. So, Siobhan, my answer to your question is yes, in a way, but I think that is changing. And I think with the right mindset and understanding how digital communications can support you, you can be just as good as those in the private sector. But let's ask a public sector communications professional. Gary, what do you think?
Well, it's about the reason why you're communicating. You know, from a public service point of view, you're attempting to get a message out. Sometimes you are trying to sell something, but you're not selling it for a commercial reason. You're selling it in a public service, in a public information sort of a way, whatever it might be. Sometimes you are selling things, of course, as well, because in part of the areas that we do go into, which are under the remit, particularly Galway City Council, you can think the Town Hall Theatre. The municipal theatre is under, they're looking to sell tickets here. We are the guardians of Leisureland Leisure Centre and swimming pool, whatever. They have their own social media presence. They have their own websites. They have their own, and in terms of what they do go. They're doing competitions. They're doing all of that sort of bottom line stuff in terms of building their social media audiences through competition. They're also building awareness of what it is, the events that they have. You're right. What you're saying. There is a tendency to be, I don't know if it's conservative, because conservative can in the digital world can seem very, Luddite and we don't want to progress and whatever. It's constrained, and it's constrained but for the reasons that you say. You have to be constrained. You have to achieve balance. You have to find the point where that between. There's very little personal opinion you're ever going to properly hear through the social media and digital media channels of a public sector organisation, whereas a commercial entity can and will and often has the advantage of being able to do that and put a face to a particular message that they want to get out, whether, and as you say, is a commercial message. But so you're using much the same tools, but you're using them for slightly different purposes. And you do really have to, you're constrained by the ideas of balance, of fairness, but also of, you are constrained by regulatory and statutory elements of what you're going. You can't suddenly start going off on something. Here is a planning notice. The observations are open for the period from here to here. You may submit the thing. Now, that would be very conservative in terms of it. Now, you could say that in a slightly different way, but you can't really say anything else other than that. This is a fabulous thing. Please submit your wonderful ideas on what you think about it. Please keep the negatives down. You can't say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even though you might want to.
Even though you might personally might want to, but corporately you don't, because it's even keel all of the way.
Great. I love having somebody else to help me answer Ask JSB. Maybe we should improve this section. Owen, do you think? Yeah, he's nodding at me.
Owen's nodding furiously.
Owen doesn't say very much. Anyway, okay, because he lets me do all the talking, right? Okay. Thank you, Owen. That is Ask JSB.
JSB's column.
In today's column, I'm bringing you behind the scenes of Ireland's first public sector digital marketing summit and sharing my story of why I'm on a mission to help government agencies transform digitally. I'm a bit nervous sharing this because I've got Gary sitting beside me, so it'll be interesting to see what he thinks. He's probably tweeting as I'm talking, so we'll let him go. The hashtag is JSB Talks Digital, Gary. Okay, so I guess my interest in public sector communications began 18 years ago when I worked in Highland Radio as a broadcast journalist. And I was engaging with the local authority, within Garda Síochána, with the HSE, with the education and training boards, and many, many public sector organisations. But we were on different sides of the fence. So I was on the side trying to break the story, get the story, report the story, and share it with my audience of 68,000 on Highland Radio. Whereas the other side of the fence, you had communications professionals just like Gary, who were essentially trying to control the message, get fair balance, and protect their reputation and only share what they could in that moment. And so I always had a really deep interest. During that time, I also did my master's in journalism, and I was covering the Morris Tribunal that was happening in Donegal at that time. So that was the public inquiry into allegations of corruption against the Gardaí in Donegal. And so I sat at hearings for 2 months in Donegal town, often the sole journalist. The national journalist would come down on a day where you had a high profile witness giving evidence. But I sat there for 2 months and reported for Highland, but also for national stations as well. And again, that demand for information from a high-profile public inquiry, how I was communicating at that stage, and that was only through radio, to be honest, and then publishing it on the Highland Radio website. But that was giving me a big interest in policing. And then 3 years ago, after a full career in communications, I decided to do a second master's, but this time in digital marketing. And I decided to study how and Garda Síochána use social media. And in fact, the Digital Marketing Institute, who were my accredited education body, said, good luck with that, Joanne. But they trusted me. I told them exactly why I wanted to do it, that it was an important piece of research, and they did. And then 6 months later, I turned that thesis into a book. And what's really interesting, only yesterday evening, I had a sergeant from the UK Police Force reach out to me by email, and she said, I'm doing a master's study on the role of social media in rape investigations. And she says, I have trawled the internet for some academic research, for some studies. And she said, your book is one of the very few pieces of reference and evidential material that I can find. So you can see that I can see that there's a huge dearth of information and evidence when it comes to the public sector, digital communications, and all those niche strands. So I got it into my head about 18 months ago that I would do more than the book and that I would actually create something bigger than that, because I had knowledge that I believed that I could share to increase the capacity of people just like me, like Gary, who are communications professionals, but need to fast forward and speed up their knowledge to help their organisations. Because empowered consumers now who are picking up their phones 200 times per day are in desperate need of information. They expect information on demand. So the Public Sector Digital Marketing Summit was born. And from that, I will also launch the Public Sector Marketing Pros Academy, where I will have 12 modules bringing the knowledge of communications professionals to the next level. And it's not just about how to use Facebook or Twitter for government agencies. These are serious topics. How do you protect the truth in the era of fake news? How do you manage a PR crisis on social media? How do you defend your staff when perhaps the organisation is getting trolled? These are very serious issues that are affecting public sector organisations right now. And I think I am the right person to step in to deliver that. I guess for a long time I was waiting for permission and somebody to say you should do it. But with the help of my good business coach, Sigrun, she convinced me that perhaps I should do it. So taking on a one-day summit, a one-day masterclass, you know, me investing in all of it and taking all the risk is huge. But I do believe that the payoff for the attendees will be massive, and that is my main goal. So we're going to the Mansion House. Gary, I hope you'll come too. I think you deserve a free ticket for coming in this morning, but we'll talk about that later. And it's on the 14th of June in the Mansion House. Half of the tickets are sold. There's 4 weeks now until the event. And I've got a massive range of speakers from Garda Síochána, the HSE, Limerick City and County Council, Trinity College Dublin, the Marine Institute. I have a police officer from Mesa Police Department in Phoenix, Arizona, who's going to talk about how social media saves lives. And he works in the front line dealing with terrorist attacks and school shootings and natural disasters, and some more excellent speakers. So it's definitely the first time that an event like this has been put on, and the people on the stage will be speaking to the people in the audience who will be their peers. And I'm delighted to give them a stage because they don't often get a stage to have a voice and to share the innovation that they are creating within the public sector. And, you know, and I've been guilty of it too. Sometimes we beat the public sector with the stick because it's easy. But we have to remember that people are working within those organisations and are often, as Gary says, constrained and trying to do their best. So that's my behind the scenes, why I set it up. If you want to learn more, jump over to the website. It's publicsectormarketingpros.com/summit. There are some competitions happening on LinkedIn for a free VIP ticket, and I had one running on Facebook as well, and I'll be announcing the winner in a couple of weeks. And if you're a public sector organisation and there are lots of people coming, come back to me. I'll give you a group discount, because I think that the bigger picture of everybody believing in digital transformation, buying into it and learning from each other is very, very important. So that is JSB's column for today.
Social media tool of the week.
So coming to the penultimate section of JSB Talks Digital, it's Social Media Tool of the Week. And about 2 months ago, my good friend and co-Google facilitator, Christina Brauer, who's German but lives in London, sent me a Snapchat, and she said, Joanne, you know your great section on JSB Talks Digital, the podcast Social Media Tool of the Week. Can you please convert that into an epic blog post? So I have. So if you go over to digitaltraining.ie, you will see that the pinned blog post is my culmination of all of these sections over 100 podcasts. So I think there are about 80 or 90 tools there that I use in my business, and I only recommend them because I use them and I'm not on an affiliate, even if I was, that would be okay, but I'm not. So today's social media tool of the week is Fan Page Karma. Listen up. If you need to analyse, compare and report on your social networks and rate them against your competitors, then Fan Page Karma is just what you've been looking for. The tool is easy to use, and you can create your own customised dashboard so that you can have a full view of how you're performing against a number of key metrics. User experience is a little bit outdated, I would argue, but it does what it says in the tin and you can get the job done. So find out more at fanpagekarma.com, but they will give you a 14-day trial. The lowest entry level is $49 per month. But if you want the 14-day trial to check it out and to test it, you have to sign up with a Facebook page offer. And I've put the link in on the blog post associated with this podcast. So we have come to the end of JSB Talks Digital, episode 100. My thanks to Gary, who came into the studio to join me. It wouldn't have been any good me talking to myself. Big shout out and thanks to Owen, who is my producer. There he is. He's so quiet behind the mic. I also want to thank all of you who have tuned in over the past 100 weeks to this podcast. I show up every week for you, as I always say. Give me 25 minutes of your time for free and I will help you flex your digital marketing and your social media muscles. One place to stay up to date with all the trends, all the changes in the fast moving world of digital. I've put together some stats, so I hope that your jingle runs long enough. Owen, will it? Will it keep going? Possibly. If it doesn't, that's okay. Sorry, I didn't tell him this bit. Some stats about JSB Talks Digital over 100 weeks. 100 episodes, 100 blog posts, 15,000 downloads, 5 podcast networks, 120 interviews, 4 live shows, 2,500 hours of free digital and social media marketing inspiration, 1 host and 1 amazing committed producer and editor. If you haven't already, please subscribe to JSB Talks Digital on iTunes and Spotify. And if you haven't given me a review, please do. I need the reviews to get more visibility on the podcast channels. So type in JSB Talks Digital to Spotify or iTunes, whatever your preferred music and podcast channel is. Give me the thumbs up, maybe a 5-star rating if you so please, and tell everybody why they should tune in. But for me, from Gary and from Owen, for now, thank you for listening and watching JSB Talks Digital 100. I'm Joanne Sweeney Burke and I'll talk to you soon.
JSB Talks Digital.
eLink Pro not only filters the profiles of your potential prospects in bulk, it also engages with them for you on Twitter. But again, I want to add a coat of caution. It's a fantastic phrase. Add a coat of caution. Flippers. If you want to have a digital transformation So are you going to log on to spectacles.com to buy a pair? They cost $149. No, they don't. They cost €149.99. The first set of spectacles went on sale last year. No. Boasting almost 57 million followers on Instagram, it's not much of a secret why Victoria's Secret is in the top 10 brands on the social network. Some might feel that reviewing the Victoria's Secret's Instagram is like the Father Ted episode where he gets lost in the laundry section. I'm just picturing him. Some might feel that reviewing the Victoria's Secret's Instagram is like the Father Ted episode where he gets lost in the laundry section of a department store. Oh gosh, sorry. Boasting almost 57 followers. No. 57 followers. Oh, However, I can see one other clear benefit. Because of Twitter's 140 character limit, emojis can be helpful as an emoji can replace a whole word. Sorry, I just banged my ring off the leg. Ask yourself, are they the right prospects? I'll take it from the top.